guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me. So if you're new here, welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave and like and comment. So obviously the day that I'm filming this, it is Halloween, and I was like so disappointed in myself because I didn't have a Halloween video ready and prepared to go up today. So I'm hoping I'm gonna film this video, edit it, and then get it up. Hopefully. One can hope, right? I guess. But if not, then it'll be up tomorrow. And it'll still be a Halloween video because I'm filming it on Halloween. But I hope everyone is having a spooky time and enjoying their life. But today, we are actually going to be doing a true crime video. Yeah, I'm actually here with a true crime video. And we are going to be talking about the Candyman. And I realised that there's a couple Candyman cases, but I am talking about the Ronald O'Bryan case. I've never checked my sweets. I don't feel like that's a big thing in the UK, but apparently in America it is. So we're gonna get on into it, and I'm not saying any of this to offend anyone, and if I do offend anyone, I am extremely sorry. I am just relaying facts that I found on the internet through various websites. It's pretty hard to narrow it down because every website seems to say a different thing, but I've chosen what I think seems to sound like the right ones, and hopefully that is how it went. I doubt this will ever get to the families, but if it does and I've said something wrong, then I'm sorry. I'm not relaying this as true fact. I'm just relaying what is out there on the internet for people to read. But let's get into it. On Halloween night in 1974, Ronald O'Bryan, Candyman, took his two children, Timothy and Elizabeth, out trick-or-treating with a neighbour and his two children. And they got to a house where the person living there didn't answer, so either they were out or they didn't want to answer the door, or for whatever reason they didn't answer. But the children ran ahead and O'Bryan stayed at that house and later caught up with them. And when he caught up with them, he had 5 pixie sticks, which I think is like the American version of those like rainbow dust tube things. He said that he got them from the occupants of the house that weren't answering, that the kids like ran away from. He gave 1 to each of his children, 1 to each of his neighbour's kids, and he gave 1 to a boy that lived near him that he recognised from his local church. Now when they got home, Timothy wanted to open or eat some of his sweets, as kids do. I remember always wanting to eat my sweets like pretty much as soon as I got in the door. And he chose to eat the pixie stick. And he struggled to get the powder out, so his dad helped him. At first he started complaining that the powder tasted bitter, so his dad, Ronald O'Bryan, gave him a Kool-Aid to try and help him wash it down, you know, get the taste away. Timothy soon started complaining of stomach pains, and within a few minutes he was at the toilet throwing up and just in a lot of pain. O'Bryan claimed that he was holding Timothy whilst this was happening, like comforting him and stuff, and then he went limp in his arms, and they rushed him to the hospital, but I believe he died en route to the hospital. So he actually passed within about half an hour of consuming this pixie sticks powder. Now of course, a child going sick that fast after having some candy is going to freak everybody else out. So all the parents started giving all their sweets that the kids had collected to the police in fear that it had been laced with poison or whatever Timothy had consumed. At first, the police didn't think that it was O'Bryan. They didn't believe straight away that it was the kid's dad. Like, that's not someone who they jumped to immediately. And when the autopsy came back, it showed that the pixie sticks had a lethal dose of potassium cyanide. I don't really know what that is, I'm not gonna lie, but they managed to receive the other 4 eventually. The parents of the child who wasn't actually trick-or-treating with them became very scared because they couldn't actually find the stick to give back to the police. Thankfully, they found their son asleep with it in his hand, unconsumed because he couldn't get into it, but all the other ones had also had the top filled with potassium cyanide. So if any of those other children had had it, it would have been fatal to them too. And they were actually opened, filled, and then restapled, which is scary. Spook. And the amount that was consumed by Timothy was actually enough to kill 2 adults, so I can't even imagine the pain that that child was in. I just looked at my notes again, and turns out the one that Timothy consumed was enough to kill 2 adults, but the other 4 were filled with enough to kill about 3 or 4. Originally, Ronald had claimed that he couldn't remember where he got the pixie sticks from, but the police were very suspicious of all his excuses because they had actually only taken the kids to houses on 2 streets because it had been raining that night. That didn't leave that many houses. And after speaking to the houses that they'd been to, none of them had said that they were handing out pixie sticks. So where did they come from? And after walking around the block, well, around the streets that they had visited 3 times with the police, O'Brien finally took them to the house that didn't answer the door. O'Brien claimed that he had revisited the home and that he had caught up with the kids later, like I said at the beginning, and that the owner of the house did not turn any of the lights on, but just cracked open the door, handed these pixie sticks out, and then closed it again. Who does that? Why would you do that? 1, that makes you look dodgy as hell, and 2, what is even the point? But apparently he only saw the owner's arm and he described it as hairy, which isn't a lot for the police to go off of. The home was actually owned by a man named Courtney Melvin, who was an air traffic controller at Hobby Airport, and he didn't get home from work until 11 o'clock that night. So unless they were trick-or-treating until like midnight, I don't believe it. Not convinced. And they were able to rule Melvin out because almost 200 people were able to confirm that he was indeed at the airport that night. As the police investigated further, they came to realise that Ronald O'Brien was not in a very good place in his life. He was almost $100,000 in debt. He was known to not be able to hold a job. The 10 years leading up to this crime, he had had about 21 jobs and was currently suspected of stealing at his current job and was close to being fired. His car was about to be repossessed and he had had his family home foreclosed on, which I'm pretty sure that means that, you know, the bank's taking it because you're in debt too much and you need to leave. They then discovered that he had actually taken out life insurance on each of his children's that year in just like the couple months before Halloween, which, again, that doesn't look good. You're in debt and you're taking out life insurance a couple months before your child dies, and just 1 month before Timothy died, so 1 month before Halloween, he took out another $20,000 policy on each of his kids, even though his insurance agent said no. O'Brien's wife said that she didn't know about the policies. I think it was a total of $60,000 of policies on your children's lives, and she knew nothing about it. He had done it all behind her back. The police then discovered that Ronald had actually called the insurance people literally the morning after that his son died to take out his policy. So your son dies of poisoning, and instead of thinking, I want to know who did this, I am distraught, which most people would be like, he was like, hello, when can I get my money? That doesn't look dodgy at all. And he had also been to a shop, visited a chemical supply store in Houston to look at cyanide, but didn't purchase anything because the smallest amount you could buy was £5. So this obviously led to the suspicion of O'Brien killing his son, because he's got the life insurance out on them literally a month before, upped it to the maximum he could up it to. and he's gone to a shop looking to buy cyanide, which just so happens to be the poison that killed his son. And they believe that by giving, instead of just making 2 pixie sticks, he made 5 so that he could cover it up by looking like, yeah, that he grabbed 5 for each of the kids, so it didn't look like he was just aiming it at his 2 children. And of course they kept questioning him, and he kept saying, I'm innocent, denial, blah blah blah. Clearly he's not. I can tell at this point that he is not. Although they never actually discovered when or where O'Brien brought the poison, he was actually arrested on the 5th of November 1974. So literally like 4 days later. I'm not being funny, it doesn't take a genius to work out that he was guilty AF. He was indicted for capital murder and 4 accounts of attempted murder for the other 4 children that could have died if they had consumed the pixie sticks that he had given them. Of course, he pleaded guilty for all 5 accounts, but there was a chemist that had spoken with O'Brien, and he claimed during the trial, when he was put on the stand, that O'Brien had asked him how much cyanide would be fatal. And then there was another chemical supply that also said that they had spoken with O'Brien about cyanide, and the people around him said that in the months leading up he had taken an unusual interest in cyanide. This is too much of a coincidence to not be related to his child's death. I don't know how desperate you have to be to kill your child to pay off your debts, but clearly he didn't give a shit, and it's disgusting. It's actually making me a little bit sad. O'Brien's sister and brother-in-law both said that during Timothy's funeral, O'Brien was talking about using the money from his policy, Timothy's insurance policy, to go on a long vacation. A long vacation when your child has just died. Tell me how that worked. Of course, he continued to plead guilty, and his defense actually fell on the whole legends that came before this about mad poisoners that always poison kids' sweets, and like the sweets having raisins in and stuff like that. So in the end, they actually ended up calling him the Candyman. On June the 3rd, 1975, the jury took a whole 46 minutes to decide that O'Brien was guilty to all 5 accounts, and they took it only 71 minutes to decide that he deserved to die. I would be one of those bitches that decides that he deserves to die. Like, that would be my response straight off. I'd be like, it was him, that bitch needs to go on death row. And after he was convicted, his wife filed for the divorce, remarried, and her husband adopted her daughter. I'm so glad that they had a nice ending, because my heart bleeds for them and Timothy. Ronald O'Brien, or Ronald Candyman O'Brien, was confined to the Huntsville unit in Huntsville, Texas. Now, he was despised by all his fellow death row mates, which says a lot considering they've obviously done something wrong to be on death row, but he was despised for the fact that he killed a child, because apparently felons have morals. You can rob a bank, you can murder a woman, but you cannot kill a child. That is not okay. Now, he got lucky, because his first date for execution was supposed to be August 8th, 1980. But his attorney successfully petitioned for it to be postponed. Then the second day was May 25th, 1982. That's a whole 2 years later. So this child murderer has been alive for an extra 2 years. And that date was also postponed. And then the next one was October 31st, 1882? Yeah, we went back in time to execute him. 1982, which was the 8th, I believe. Yes, it was the 8th year anniversary of Timothy's death, and the judge that agreed on that day actually offered to drive him to the death chamber himself. This is how much people hated this guy, and I'm not surprised. He literally murdered his child because he wasn't there. I said it once and I'll say it again. It's disgusting. Disgusting! And this was to be the first time that there was an execution in Texas via lethal injection. The Supreme Court then postponed this date to give him the chance to appeal and have a new trial. Why they gave him this chance, I do not know. He doesn't deserve it. But, oh, my candle's going out. Why he was given a second chance, however many chances this one was, I do not know. It's fairly obvious to me that it was him and that he should just go. But they wanted to give him it. And then finally, the fourth one was scheduled for March the 31st, 1984. So a whole 10 years after he killed his son, he finally had a date. And his lawyer did try to appeal this date under the circumstances that apparently the lethal injection is too cruel, but the judge rejected. Finally, someone that saw sense. Just after midnight on March 31st, 1984, O'Bryan was executed by lethal injection. And I'm going to read some parts from his final statement. So it says here, in his final statement, O'Bryan maintained his innocence, stating that he felt the death penalty was wrong. He added, "I forgive all, and I do mean all, those who have been involved in my death. God bless you all, and may God's best blessings be always yours." And you know what? During the execution, 300 people was there shouting, "Trick or treat." And that is my favourite part of this story. That 300 people were there reminding him of the reason that he was meeting his end. Is that not incredible? Well, I'm really sorry to O'Brien's family. If you ever see this, I doubt you will, because I'm just a small YouTuber. But trick or treat to Ronald O'Bryan. I just checked my notes and it says all the other people that weren't shouting trick or treat were like, I guess there was like people that were there that were like against death penalty, and the people who weren't shouting trick or treat but were on that side were just throwing candy at these anti-death penalty people. That is exactly what they deserve. That is exactly shouting trick or treat to Ronald O'Bryan. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And I'm just looking for where he's buried. So Ronald O'Bryan is buried in Forest Park East Cemetery in Webster, Texas. And Timothy is buried in Forest Park Lawndale Cemetery in Houston. So they're separate, which is, honestly, that's what Timothy deserves. He deserves to be laid to rest at peace and not with his murdering father. But yeah, so obviously that was the first time that I'd done true crime. And I hope that it went well. Honestly, normally I would like write all my actual key facts down so it wouldn't be so jumpy, because I know this video is going to be jumpy because I had to keep checking my notes because I didn't have my laptop up. In the future I will have my laptop up though, and there will be a script and it won't be as jumpy. And yeah, that was a really interesting case. I really enjoyed reading about that, and it's Halloween based, so I hope everyone is having the spookiest time, and I hope if you go trick-or-treating you have fun. If you have a party, you have fun. Don't do anything stupid. And yeah, I just hope everyone has had the best spooky season and Halloween ever. But bye bye for now. Oh, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Bye!